Okay, wanted to record an update video for my account progress and whatnot in Wuthering Waves. I figured I just hit like 1,000,000 Union experience at Union level 80, and so I figured that was kind of a good checkpoint, that I might do this maybe every 500,000 or 1,000,000 or so. I don't know exactly what the time scale of that would be, but I think every like 3 to 6 months or something it would be good to do an update on. So let me go to gallery here. And the last time I had made a video is around May over my account, and I think that was just after Zani had released, but before Chikona. So then I was saving for Chikona at the time, and I didn't know who I was going to get after that. That's a long, whatever, voice line. Okay, so I got Chikona, and then I got Kartathea afterwards. And we'll take a look at them in a second, but I actually used my corals to get Kartathea S2, and then I got Lupa to finish off my Changli, S6 fusion team and whatnot. And I actually ended up using a lot of pulls and things like that, and I think one coral to get Lupa to also S2. And my Brant is still S0. And then I'm skipping Frolova, and then I'm still skipping Cantarella and Rochia and stuff like that. I think the next character I'm probably going to be getting is Ayuno or Yuno. I don't think I'm going to be getting Augusta, and then after that there's like the Chisa, Galbrina, and there's Booling. I'm probably not getting Booling. And then there's the like Qingyang or something. It's like the like sword guy. So I might get between Chisa, Galbrina, and the Qingyuan. I might get 2 or 3 of them, but that's sort of my plan for now. As far as future characters go, it always depends. I base it on, what their gameplay is like and everything like that. Okay. So again, that's like my update. I did lose about a week, almost a week and a half, because I've been moving several times and things like that over the course of this time. So I missed out on doing actually a couple events and things like that. So let's go with, again, starting near the bottom. Mortefi's a character that I have not really updated or played at all since the previous time or anything. Then let's look at Baija. She's, again, still just using kind of leftover echoes from my healing set that I've not really improved too much as far as like Shorekeeper, Verena, and her. She's using variation. I might have more refinements of this that I could use. No, I don't. So I'm still stuck at S3 on that variation. Eventually this will get up to S5, I'm sure, and then her echoes basically are just a bunch of ER and things like that. You can go in and look at the exact stats on all these. I could possibly improve her echoes. I with other ones that I have, I don't really know. And she's like 7 across the board. I got 10 on her liberation, but I'm skipping the healing bonuses on that. And she's S6, of course. Again, I think all of my 4-star characters are S6 except for Lumi, and Lumi is S4. I believe that's correct everywhere else across the board. Just double checking that. Yep, that looks to be the case. Okay, so then we'll move on to Sanhua. Sanhua is also very similar to the previous kind that I went over. One thing that I kind of forgot to mention that I saw some people ask about the previous time was that what I consider low investment on a character is kind of like grinding their echoes to get them to like double crit stats on all 5 pieces and stuff, and then kind of leaving them there. And that normally takes me somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks on average per character. She's using a rank 2 Emerald of Genesis. I'm currently like 50 or 60 into pity, working on getting the rank 3 on the next sword, but she's still using Moonlit. I don't really use her very often, but I will if I'm using her still with Camellia in like Whimpering Wastes and things like that. But she's mostly using some of the leftover echoes that I had for Zheji when she was using the Moonlit set primarily, but I've tried to start building Zheji more on the Empyrean set as an update, and she's 10 across the board, and then S6 like I already mentioned. Okay, Rover. I've started using Arrow Rover, of course, to go with the Kartathea Chechona team. Her build I would still consider kind of low investment. I'm still working on her, but she's, usable enough for now, and she's kind of just getting a lot of the leftover Cardothea echoes and things like that. I think I can get this up to rank 3, but I just haven't bothered. I've actually fallen behind on the story a fair bit. So we can go in. Mainly her 4-cost echo is what I've been... I think this should be a crit rate echo, especially looking at her current breakdown. That almost definitely should be true. But I've gotten extremely unlucky with the amount of... like, whatever, these fleur-de-lis echoes on this set. All the other fleur-de-lis echoes I'm getting, you can see, and same with the Kelpie, are going on the Gusts of Welkin set for me. So I'm, like, for whatever reason, I'm getting very unlucky on them dropping as part of the right set. But most of her other echoes are pretty good. Either double crit stats in attack, or skill damage bonus, or energy regen or something. So, yeah, she's doing pretty all right. I've got her 10 across the board, and again, I'm skipping on the healing bonuses, and she's S2. Maybe it's I can get S3 for doing the story or something. I don't know. But like I said, I'm actually behind on the story. So, Verena, she's up to S3. And again, she's mostly just using ER stats on her echoes and things like that. She's on a rank 1 variation, and just using kind of similar echoes. I don't think I've changed any of her echoes since the last time that I looked at her. And again, she's 10 across the board, except for 7 on her intro skill. I'm eventually probably just going to work on this. I probably just need to combine these helixes and whatnot to get that up, but they're pretty low priority for me at this point. I'm kind of mostly at the point where I'm just saving up materials and stuff to pre-farm for the new characters that I'm trying to be getting, and then spending my wave plates on just tacit fields and whatnot after that. Okay, Yinlin. I don't remember if I had moved her over to the Empyrean set or if I was still on the Void Thunder set the last time that I looked at her, but she's not changed too significantly. I haven't really like super invested in her, but I do have her on the Empyrean set primarily nowadays, and I think she's double crit everywhere across the board. Decent setup. I can go in and look at the... I forget how do you do this. Is it here? Yeah. So I have a Void Thunder set here also that you can look at the stats comparisons there, I guess. It's like pretty similar crit rate, slightly lower crit damage, a bit higher regen, a little bit lower on the ER bonus, but some more attack. But they were pretty fairly similar echoes. I similarly built, again, like I said, I consider low investment or medium investment. I kind of like get everyone to mid investment, I guess. None of my characters that I've actually built are really low investment, I would say. But what I consider a high investment character is to go beyond the double crit and dedicate more like 2 to 3 to 6 months of farming on that character to just them to get them their echoes to a much higher quality. So instead of just being accepting of like a minimum crit rate, minimum crit damage piece like this, I would also go for an attack and maybe, you know, skill percent or basic percent or whatever they use, and go for a 3 or a 4 stat roll. And I would be starting to care more about like what the crit ratio is and getting there, having crit and energy regen and attack percent, you know, stuff like that. So some of these echoes, you know, like this are kind of just, they only really have 2 good stats. I mean, energy regen is useful on Yinlin, but yeah. So again, Jinxie, another character that I would consider mid investment. I don't think she's changed too much since the previous time we looked at her. She is on her Ages of Harvest, and she has her skin, of course. And we can go through and look at her echoes. Again, you can see these are like minimally, like medium echoes. You know, 2 or 3. A couple of these have 4 good stats, but some of them are just 2 good stats like this. And some of those rolls, you know, occasionally are on the high end, but that's just the luck of the draw or whatever. But I don't really invest too much beyond them. Okay, so Zheji. Now we're getting into some of the characters that I've invested much more heavily in. Zheji I had previously built very heavily on the Moonlit set, and she was definitely high invested there. I had almost perfected her build with 4 stats on everything. I had double crit, attack percent, and basic percent on all of her stuff, and she also usually wants to have like 20 or 30% energy regen, so a couple of those pieces were actual 5 stat pieces. Her Empyrean pieces are not as good, but from what it seems to be is because I have invested in her a bit more heavily, because I have her signature weapon and things like that, is that you get a little bit more mileage out of using her on the Empyrean set compared to the Moonlit set. It works a little bit in reverse because the Moonlit set is better as a buffer if you have more sequences on Carlotta, which is the team I'm primarily using her in, and I do have S2 on Carlotta, so I don't know, but I could switch them back and forth. It just depends on what I want to get out of her. Okay. Then back to Shorekeeper. I have adjusted her build, I think, slightly, just because I was trying to actually get rid of some of the echoes. Now she is only at 229 energy regen. I would like that to be capped, obviously, to get the full 250, but being 1% off is not a huge deal, I think, for right now. So I think I've changed her either forecast and maybe some of her 3 and 1 costs a little bit, mainly going for crit damage, HP percentage, liberation percent, and ER on as many pieces as I can get them. And the ER, obviously, you generally want it to be like a minimum of like a 10% roll, so that you can get away with doing it in only 2 or 3 rolls to hit the whatever breakpoint that you want to. She's 10 across the board, and S0 as I've mentioned. Camellia, I haven't changed too much. I think I did get her a better forecast echo from the last time we looked at her. And again, she's still like the only, I would say, like higher range investment character of the ones we've looked at so far for me is Jeji. Camellia I would still consider a medium investment or mid investment, but I did finally get her a better double crit forecast, and then I think most of her other echoes are the same, with double crit and either basic attack or regular attack percent 10 across the board, and she's S0. Okay, so now these are kind of, we're starting to get to some of my higher investment characters and kind of more of the, you know, whatever, pinnacles of my account and whatnot. Okay, so Carlotta, first off, her build I don't think has changed too much because I've been investing in finishing off the builds of like Lupa and Brant and Chachona and Arrow Rover and Kartathea and things like that, so I haven't actually been using a bunch of my wave plates on her tacit field as much anymore, but she's still a long-term project, still in progress. You know, I might eventually continue investing in her more heavily, but we'll look at her echoes for now. I think they're probably pretty similar to what they used to be, but she has a very good crit ratio value on most of her pieces, and so her overall crit rate, crit value stuff is very, very high. You can see just from the echoes, this is like, I think it's like a 120 or 130 CV total, and then overall, I primarily use her with Shorekeeper, so she gets additional crit rate from her sequences. So I think in total this ends up being like 79 or like 81% crit rate in combat and 350 crit damage, which is pretty insane. She's 10 across the board, and yeah, S2. So she gets 12.5% crit rate here, and then another 12.5 from Shorekeeper's buff. Or it's probably 12.4 actually because of Shorekeeper's energy. Okay, Chachona now, the newest character update since the previous time. Her build is like medium, but medium to higher investment for me so far. I've not like super heavily invested in her, but she's definitely like got some good echoes. I did end up pulling for her weapon. I had just kind of like some extra asteroids and stuff, so I just put like 20 pulls towards it. I was willing to skip this weapon, but I ended up getting it in a very early time, so it paid off for me there. Her, again, forecast is just okay, but the rest of her echoes are pretty decent. Looking for ER, and then just like flat attack and then liberation percent along with the double crit stuff. So yep, she's doing pretty good. And I'm pretty happy with her build and whatnot. She's also 10 across the board, again, because I'm pre-farming for everybody, but she's S0. And then we can go to Kartathea, so we can see that I did pull for her S2 here. Or I didn't pull for it, I got that with corals. She's trying to be on the higher end investment, but I'm definitely still working on her. We've only had, whatever it is, like 3 weeks of the previous patch or something, plus, or maybe it was before that. I guess it might have been before that. So it might have been 6 weeks of the previous patch, plus now the Furlova patch. So we're working on like 6 to 9 weeks, roughly, of total time that I've even been able to farm for her tacit field and things like that. I did get her weapon just because I was going for the S2 on her already, and at that point I knew that I also had I had enough saved up that I could guarantee her weapon and her S2 from corals and things like that. And then once I got the Chacona weapon also as a lucky surprise, kind of. So yeah, on her echoes I'm looking for double crit and HP percentage mainly. Still working on this Scalpy. Like I said, I've been very unlucky with the Sonata set as far as those drops go. And her one cost I'm still working on also. I would ideally want to get double crit plus an HP percentage on this one. Again, looking for an HP percentage on this one, although this Echo is probably going to be a bit harder to improve. And another decent HP 1 cost Echo there. Of course, 10 across the board, and she's S2 like I already mentioned. And so yeah, she's pretty good. I've been using her primarily as like my second team in Whimpering Wastes, and using her a lot in the tower and things like that. So my 3 primary teams now are all mono element. So I've got the mono fusion team, the mono arrow team, and the Glacio team. Although technically I use Shorekeeper with the Glacio team of Carlotta Jeji, but you could always use Vaisho with them if you wanted to. Okay. So now let's look at Lupa, who's the newest character I've got and started farming for. I've got her build into a pretty solid state. She's also on the mid to high investment. And I did get her weapon as well. And her echoes I've invested in decently, but they could still be improved. Like I would like to get probably attack percent on this, if you could, or liberation percent, either one. Here again, that's a good 3 stat, plus it has ER, which she does need a little bit of. This one I could definitely improve. I'm looking for a 3rd stat of, liberation percent or attack percent, or even flat attack or something. This Echo is very good, 4 stats. Very happy with that one, and this one's pretty good, 3 stats there. And she's 10 across the board, and I did get her S2, primarily for this, which gives essentially 40% fusion damage, and because I'm already so heavily invested in Changli and things like that. And then the crit rate here also helps her build a little bit. So in combat, she's already up at 90.7% crit rate. And that's before, that's without using her in our Shorekeeper team and things like that. So that allows me to get away with making sure I could possibly eventually swap this over to a crit damage forecast if I wanted to, if I got a lot higher crit rate rolls on the baseline pieces. But yeah, that's a long-term thing. But she's, very good for right now. You can't be upset with whatever, 90.7 and 274 and whatnot. She's at 120 ER and over 2k attack. Okay. Brent is definitely, so she's sort of like to the mid-higher investment. Karthithia is eventually going to be a high investment. Carlotta's the high investment. Brent, I would also say, is mid to high. I still want to get his ER a bit higher, up to the 280 mark if I can. But I've just been a little bit unlucky with his things. I need to still farm a forecast for him, but I'm waiting to do this. He's kind of like my project after the Karthithia and Arrow Rover Echo, as far as boss farming is done. I'm spending my 15, every week on the guaranteed farming for Karthithia's Echoes right now and stuff. So he's kind of a backup project at the end of that. But the rest of his Echoes are pretty good. Double crit with either basic attack or ER, usually. Trying to get ER on more of these, like on this 3 cost here, and on his, and looking for double crit on his 4 cost. So that'll finish him off. He's 10 across the board, but he is also at S0. And finally, the kind of real pinnacle of my account is still Changli. I haven't changed her build too much, but with the introduction of Lupa, and especially because I got Lupa's S2, with the 40% fusion damage bonus, is that previously I was running, oh yeah, so I have Changli S6, and I'll take a look at her stats, is that previously I was running my Changli with double fusion 3 cost echoes, and so she's 10 across the board, and so we can look at this now. I think this is still the same, this might be new, I don't remember, but you can see this is an old fusion 3 cost echo that I had that's very good, but now I've swapped over to an attack 3 cost. I might also, from what I've seen from some other people, is that it might be worth going to using a 4-4-1-1-1 setup on her and using double crit forecasts. 1 crit rate, 1 crit damage. So I might also look into swapping that over. I haven't done the calculations on which one of those would be better or worse, because I have a lot of attack rolls on the substats, and so an attack 3 cost is kind of getting diluted in that sense also a little bit, whereas the crit isn't probably going to be as diluted. And I'm now losing the Shorekeeper buff that I was previously using on Changli. So yeah, her echoes have changed slightly, but she's still very, very good, very strong. So I might change her over to the forecast echo in a little bit. Other than that, I've got a fair amount of pulls saved up. Like I said, I'm using them on Ayuno next, and then not much beyond that. We can check these page amounts and things like that. We'll see. So 130 pages times 5, whatever that number is, 5 or 600 something, 650 roughly. But you can see the last time I've pulled was, a month ago on that, after I got Lupa on a a tentpole and whatnot. And then the weapon pulls, we can see 39 pages there, and so we can see, I think I did have to go to pity for Lupa's weapon, but there's the Cartithia weapon, which I didn't have very much pity in that, and then I think it was fairly close after that. Oh no, I did go to pity for Cartithia's weapon, but here's where I got Shochona's gun, and then it's only like, yeah, 2 pages after that from where I got Brant's weapon, so I got hers pretty close after like 2 tentpoles or something. So that was a welcome surprise. Okay. And then, yeah, I'm still sitting here waiting. I'm on like 50-something pity on the standard weapon here. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 50, 51. So 57, I think, pity into that. But yeah, still eventually going to get a rank 3 on that. We can check the backpack for, there's all the, 5 costs that I have, plus a rank 2 on the Emerald of Genesis here. I've still got Lecherous Razor and a Static Mist sitting unused. And yep, I've got, I think, every 4 costs pretty much. I've been saving up to 5 copies of them. Some of them I've combined. I think only a couple though. In a few places, like here I've got rank 5. Oh, Overture I got to rank 5, so I combined those down. Discord I got up to rank 5, and then I've got also 5 locked copies of all the 3 costs, and then any extras that I've got from that are unlocked in case those ever become useful, and then I'm not locking any 2 costs or lower or anything. But you can see I've got, 400 gold mats here, and probably, yeah, another 500 purple mats, so I'm doing plenty fine on my materials in that sense. I hit my 3,000 cap on the echoes, so I actually went through and discarded a bunch and like batch merged them together, so that I previously was saving a lot of like lingering tunes echoes on and had a bunch of elements there and things like that, but realistically I don't think I'm going to be saving those anymore unless a character comes out that uses lingering tunes, and then I can just go farm it after that. But having like 300 or 400, 500 echoes sitting locked that I was realistically never going to be using were taking up way too much space when I'm constantly, every day, all I do pretty much is use, unless there's a double event going on, is go to the tacit fields and spend all my wave plates on that and stuff. I don't really craft or use consumables hardly ever often. My materials have definitely taken a hit. I've pre-farmed a little bit of like the gun materials, I think, already, and most of the gauntlet stuff for Ayuno, and the gun would be for the pistol Galbrina person. Chisa, I don't think we know what her weapon type is yet. I'm guessing sword, or there's the other guy who's a sword. Maybe one of those are broadblade. I don't know. I thought she had like a scissor weapon, but I could be misremembering. But yeah, I've pre-farmed the gauntlet stuff mainly. And then I'm just kind of working on saving up like some weekly mats or boss mats at this point. Still just got a bunch of like cooking materials and stuff in here. Again, I've fallen behind on the story a little bit. And then, again, as far as like spending goes and things like that, I've got several of the Battle Pass stuff saved up. I think I have 1 of each of the regular Battle Pass weapons, which are, it's Augment, like Commando of Conviction. I know one's a Broadblade that I had, I think. Autumn Trace, yeah, and stuff like that. So I've got 1 of, I think, every normal Battle Pass weapon, and then I'm just kind of saving up the rest. I've got a bunch of music things that I need to, and then I'm saving these wave plates because if there's ever a character that a boss comes out for that, I like to just have, I think you need around 15 saved up in order to collect all their boss mats and things like that if you didn't have a boss before. But you can see my coral supplies are definitely on the lower end. Need to stock those up. I'm probably not going for S2 on anybody for a while. I think maybe if there's a new main DPS, I don't think I would do it on Ayuno because she seems to be more like a sub DPS. Augusta seems to be more of the main DPS, but generally I would only go for S2 on like a main unit that's kind of the core of the comp. So like Changli, Carlotta, Cartithia. And then Lupo was kind of a unique situation where I was like, well, I already invested so heavily in S6 Changli, and it kind of changes the builds that you can do to get all this extra fusion bonus, and I already had Brant and stuff on his signature and all this other stuff. So I was like, well, we'll just go for Lupa, and yeah, that was kind of using most of my materials at that point. But again, I'm saving up for Iuno now, and then not sure what beyond that. But I generally have to like skip probably half of the characters that come out. I can only get like, or maybe 2 out of every 3 or something, because I am mostly just doing the whatever Lunite subscription and then the podcast battle pass thing. So yeah, we're still working on that. Again, I've got 2 polls working on that coming up and things like that. Okay, so yeah, that's the update to my account. Databank, I've actually been slacking on this. I forget what ones I'm missing, but I think it's like, I know it's the Lampy Lumen guy, and it's probably on some of these new Sonata sets. I'm missing a thing here, 2 of the Empyrean people. Oh yeah, okay, so I haven't done like any of the next chapter of the story to unlock these, I guess, so that's where that's mostly coming from. Trophies, we're up to 618 and 427. I think somebody in the last time had me comment that I first got 30 30 of 30 on the Tower of Adversity in September. I've just been doing that ever since, 30 out of 30. I know there was an achievement at some point that I got semi-recently, maybe 2 to 4 weeks ago or something, for the Whimpering Wastes, to clear it, I think with triple S on the final thing, like 5 times in a row or something. I do have that achievement. I could put in the comments if I find that, if somebody knows what the name of it is or where it is that I could search for it, that I could find that. But yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much what. So I've been clearing Whimpering Wastes just fine every week also, and yeah, we can check my map. I've been definitely slacking on the map as far as Septimont goes. Like I said, I fell behind on the story. I was moving. I missed like a whole week or week and a half of gameplay and things like that. I still need to go back and do some of Renacita and things like that, but I'll catch up probably over the course of the next week or 2 on some of that. Okay, so that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Again, like I said, I might do these maybe every 500,000 or a million more union experience that I get. That seems to be a good kind of checkpoint marker place to give an update from. But yeah, not too much has changed. Just kind of, again, working on, I think people also in the first video seemed like surprised that my characters could be that well built, and thinks that it was like due to luck and everything else. But you can see, like, I don't build them perfectly straight out the gate. Like, this is, 9 weeks later or something. Sometimes it does take more time depending on how lucky or unlucky you get. But you can get like good echoes, double crit echoes. I generally keep every double crit echo that I roll. So we can look through and see on some of these. But you can see I roll the echoes generally up to 10 or 15 if I don't have a good echo on that set yet. And then I do either +10 or and +5 per thing past that point. Looks like I've combined a lot of these echoes, but yeah, I can try and show you that, like, I level a lot of echoes. That's the only thing I'm spending my wave plates on and things like that. Again, I'm keeping every double crit echo that I've ever rolled, and I'm definitely rolling several of them. And so I have extras in a lot of these places. If I ever need to roll multiple of them or use other variations of stats and combinations of stats for different characters and things like that. So yeah, those are all over the place on all of my characters that, yeah, I'm investing a lot into them, and I'm spending the materials to be able to get this lucky in the first place. But once you get your account to a kind of endgame state like this is all you have to spend your materials on anyway. And so you end up being able to actually do this and spend this much. And so, yeah, if you throw enough materials at it, just law of large numbers, eventually you're going to get somewhat lucky, and it'll pay off because it just has to. Law of large numbers wise. You make your own luck. You regress it to the mean or whatever, and yeah, you force it to happen just by pure amount of materials you're spending and things like that. The amount of rolls of the dice that you're doing. Eventually, you're going to get snake eyes or whatever come up every so often. So yeah, but yeah, that's the only thing that I have to be using to progress my account at this point. I don't need to collect any more materials. All my characters are, like I said, basically 10 of 10 across the board. They're all level 90, all this other stuff. I pre-farm for them in advance so that as soon as a new character comes out, I can instantly get them up to this point. And then from then on, as soon as their tacit field releases, I can just farm their tacit field with all of my wave plates and even use some of these saved up, crystal solvents and things like that if I need to try and boost them to get their build to a, pretty good midway state from that point, within a couple weeks. Again, I've missed some time, so I've actually missed some time on investing in like Cartathea and Lupa and things like that. But even then, like I can get these characters to fairly solid builds on, I would say, a relatively short period of time. Like it really doesn't take that much time. The chances are pretty good that you can get at least double crit echoes across the board on a character with relatively minimal like investment in terms of resources. Like I said, maybe 2 to 4 weeks is all it takes in terms of this. And then if you're getting like very unlucky, I also have, I think I don't know where it shows it in the backpack, but the tuner things to change your echoes. I don't know where those would be. In here, maybe? Yeah, so I have like 57 of these things too. So like if I really wanted to get my Cartathea's echoes and stuff into like an actual perfect state, I could spend, 50 of these on 4-cost echoes that I'm dropping and things like that, if they're on the right set, of course, to like force it earlier than it needs to be. But I'm also fine stockpiling these. I've used a couple of them, like maybe 10 or 15, but I haven't used that many. And it's mostly just to like, if I only have like, for example, on Chechona or something, rather than going and spending on her tacit field over and over, when it's like I only need one cost at that point, is like, or 1 3-cost, I might just have, if I've already got some extra 3-costs of hers that are, Spectro percent instead of Arrow percent, I might use the modifiers to just put those to Arrow percent just to give me a few more chances so that I can be done farming her tacit field early, and then I actually get the full benefit out of a tacit field of like Cartathea or whatever, because she's brand new, for example, right? So, yeah, you just kind of have to be smart with how you use your resources like that. Okay, I'm rambling too much. Again, I don't expect very many people will watch this, but I think it's fun to show off a little bit, and of course, kind of give people a goal and show what is possible if you invest in an account long term. And again, it's like you don't have to be lucky or unlucky. You just kind of like make your own luck out of the amount of time you've invested in resources you've invested in things like that. And eventually, you're guaranteed to get reasonably equal luck to about anybody else. And at that point, if you just invest beyond that, if you want to, like I said, I can clear all these endgame modes with, I have like 5 different teams at this point of fully functional teams. I could probably even like make a 6th or 7th team if I needed to, just for variety's sake. And at this point, there's no reason that I need to invest in the characters any more heavily than I do. I certainly don't need an S6 Strangly, but it's the fun thing for me to do at that point, is to see how good I can make them. And again, I have nothing else better to be doing with my resources anyway, so it's like, why not? And so push them to the limit to get them to, I agree these are like higher end investment characters or whatever. I'm not saying this is like an achievable goal that everybody should be striving toward. But on most of these other characters, like this Camellia, I've not invested super heavily in. Jinsei, I've not invested super heavily in. These are kind of like my 4th or 5th teams as far as this game, and I don't continue investing in them beyond this point. But these are very easy achievable midpoints that you can get them to this point, and then again still have enough resources left over to super heavily invest in your Changli or in your Carlotta and your Cartathea and things like that for multiple months. I mean, 3 to plus 6 months on some of these. Like Changli probably has 6 months worth of my wave plates at this point, out of the total whatever, like 15 months that the game's been out. So yeah, that's it for me. Cool. I've been rambling too much. Again, like I said, I don't think people probably intended to watch like a full 30-minute thing of this, but I ramble a lot, so that's what I got. And I tried to make it a bit more, I guess, informative of like how you use the resources on an account like this compared to the first time, because it seemed like some people were confused, and that was more of a 1-year update. And so hopefully if people saw that and they are continuing to follow me, then this can maybe answer some of those more questions. Or maybe if they've just been playing for now 3 months later, it's probably a lot of people came back for the anniversary and things like that, and that seemed like an out of reach thing for them that you would have had to spend a bunch. But no, I would say I'm like dolphin spender, whatever. Yeah, that's it for me. Cool. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.